You get it set up and forget it.
So the big question is, what are top agents doing to absolutely crush it in real estate, grow their teams and add more transactions year over year while so many struggle? To get the answers, we interview top real estate agents to learn their secrets to success. Listen, we believe every agent should make a minimum of $100,000 per year, and we're on a mission to make this happen. We've already helped over 100 agents achieve this with our coaching. So if you want to fast track your business growth, get to your first $100,000 in GCI or add another $100,000 in GCI using social strategies, then head over to go.eliteagentsecrets.com, or you can just click the link in the description below. Also, just make sure to follow us, hit that subscribe button, and if you get any value from this at all, please tell a friend and leave us a review. My name is Andrew Dunn.
And my name is Peter Michael. Welcome to Elite Agent Secrets. I think where you're going with this kind of rolls us really nicely into topic number 3, is how to take an expensive and emotional process and really shorten that cycle. So would you mind expanding on that a little bit? Because I think that's how this all comes full circle from everything you shared with us.
Okay, so when you think about it, right? So, a lot of times I notice when people decide to get into real estate, they could be in transition because of COVID, because of whatever. And I think everybody has the attraction to be an entrepreneur, that they can create, like, when I told you initially I made $7 an hour, I fought like hell to get a quarter raise, a nickel raise, a dime raise, and I was just tired of it. And then I felt, since I didn't have a college degree, who's going to want to hire me? So I went to something that I could control my own destiny, right? And real estate was the vehicle for me. And it served me and my family very well over these years. So when you randomly do 40 transactions as a single agent, there's a lot of details, right? And, when you have too many transactions and if you drop the ball on anything, people get upset, right? Because, they don't really understand what's happening. When you have a transaction, you have, 6 to 7 people in it. You have a buyer's agent, seller's agent, an appraiser, a lender, title company, mortgage person, you know what I'm saying? So you got all these people you're trying to coordinate to have a smooth, beautiful transaction. So that takes me to, how do you do that? How do you have more freedom? How do you have consistency with a super expensive thing that's super emotional? Well, you got to have infrastructure. So that means you got to have some kind of a system. So let's just say if you have a cash buyer, the process is slightly different than if you had an FHA or a VA or a conventional. So you have to understand as an agent, what does that entail? And then you preset your customer. Now, as a single agent or a small, efficient ninja team, how do you do that? Well, you got to have a CRM. You got to have some kind of a CRM, customer relationship management system, with action plans. What is the action plan? So let's just run through this real quick. As a seller, so you get them to say, yes, I'm going to pick you guys to sell my home. So you told them everything, but do you think they remember anything you told them? And are they calling you and you're reacting instead of responding? Like you're in the middle of something and all of a sudden they call panicked about something. The sign's crooked. You didn't put the picture of my new dresser that's built in, or, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Because they don't really understand. So you have to sort of set them up and then keep sending them video clips, emails of the process before they call you. So the goal is to be proactive, not reactive. And that's the problem with our business, is we're firefighters. And so it's trauma. We're always under trauma because people are crazy. And so you have to kind of manage the emotional trauma of people. Because, right, I'm getting a divorce. I'm on edge. I'm going to abuse you because you're the agent. I'm going to abuse you because of this or that, right? So what you do is you set up the workflow or the action plan for the transaction earned. So if it's an FHA buyer, look, let's say it's a trust. Well, so you get up on closing, they don't have a savings account or a trust account. Where's the money going? They get a check they can't do anything with. So you got to preset them and say, look, if this is a trust, just FYI, I did a family trust because I'm planning for my family and we're selling the house. And of course, I don't have a savings or checking trust account. Well, you got to open one so they can wire the money into the account, right? So they're rushing around at the last minute trying to open an account because you didn't know better to tell them. And the same thing with FHA. Well, what do you mean I got to sign this paper as a seller saying that if it doesn't appraise for this amount, they can get out of the transaction? So they're scared now. So it's an all-party certification form. So you tell them ahead of time, this is standard protocol, it's a government thing, no big deal. I mean, if even if it was a cash or conventional, if you have an appraisal issue, you have an appraisal issue, right? You renegotiate. So you're basically trying to look at the transaction. If it's a buyer transaction, a seller transaction, what is typically the pitfalls? And then you create a system, and then it's consistent every single time. You get it set up and forget it. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And then they're getting the information about the time. Like, what about the keys? What do we do with the keys and the garage door openers? I mean, what about the utilities? Do we got to call that? And what about mail? And here you're on 10 other transactions. So if you have 25 or 30 pending transactions, your phone is nonstop with just answering dumb questions because you didn't preset them correctly. And so that's how you do the infrastructure. So you have more activity, more volume, and it's like an easier transaction than when I did 40 transactions. And I worked 80 hours.
I love it. I love it.
That's the essence of it. And then you're the local expert. Like, even though soon as you sell the home or they buy a home, they're excited. They tell all their friends and family. And then what happens at 2 a.m? They have a holy shit moment. What are you doing the whole time? Talking them off the ledge. Why? Because they had buyer's remorse. Because you didn't preset them. They went too quick. I don't even remember if it has a bedroom. I don't even remember if it has a bathroom. Does it have a backyard? Like, I don't know. What if I don't like the neighbors? What do you mean lead paint? Get what I'm saying, guys?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love how you're talking about being proactive instead of being reactive, because a lot of these issues are non-issues when you set them up. So like, I know like when I talk to my buyers for the first time, I explain like, hey, has anybody ever taken you through what the home buying process looks like? They're like, no. I said, great. Well, when you get in the car, do you know exactly the 500 miles that you're about to drive on this trip and exactly what that looks like? No. Well, I've been at your destination. I know what that looks like. All we have to worry about is the first 300 feet that the headlights actually show us when we drive at night. Would you agree? Yes. And then we start kind of building that.
And then Uncle Joe shows up.
Yes, and he fucks up the inspection.
Right. So there's a whole philosophy on how to deal with Uncle Joe, the expert who hadn't bought a home in 30 years.
That told them that they also need 20% to get rid of PMI, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so you guys get the gist of it. Since you're agents, you kind of know the pain and suffering. But again, it's like you either respond or you react. And the way I set everything up is so it's just like it's better to reach out to them before they reach out to you, because then you're reacting and not responding. So by doing the presets and putting the action plans in place, you can preset them because like let's face it, opposites attract. So if you're dealing with a couple, one's analytic and one's like all feely and touchy. So the husband's trying to pacify the wife, but then the husband stifles it, because you're thinking the wife's making the decision. So that's where the personality thing comes into play, because you got to understand. It would be like me saying to you, hey, Mr. Engineer, you're ready to make a buy. You don't pay full price for anything. So Mr. Engineer, I just want to give you a heads up. When we go out and look, you'll probably have to buy it the second we look at it, and you won't have time to pray about it, think about it, talk to your uncle about it, have a second look, do some research, check out the graphs and the charts. It ain't happening. And you're like, wait a minute here. So if it does happen, what's happening to you at 2 a.m. besides wanting to guzzle like a bottle of whiskey or something, right? So you don't want to have that experience. So you have to have the presets in place for the personality type. So with you, we would have to say, look, before we get started, I kind of want to explain to you what the market's doing and what's happening. So I'm showing you that things are selling 105% of value. What? I don't pay full price for anything. My dad taught me that. Well, the point is that if you're in this game, in 6 months, it's going to be a lot different, and you're going to be thanking me once you're an informed decision maker, and I'm going to help you become that person. And so when we do this, we're going to do the pluses, we're going to do the minuses, so that at 2 a.m, when you wake up with anxiety, you're going to understand that you're making a positive, logical decision, which is important to you, Mr. Engineer, and not going to Vegas gambling away all your proceeds.
This literally is my life story. That's my childhood just explained in about 2 seconds.
Well, I mean, like I know we don't have enough time to cover that segment of it, but that's an important segment.
Yeah, I mean, I am an engineer in my past life. That is my life. So I am out of us two. Peter is far more touchy-feely.
Opposites attract.
Very, very much
so. Well, apparently so.
I understand.
Yeah, it's like I'm the data guy. Like I don't get emotional with my decisions at all. Like the numbers have to make sense, and that's literally it. Like I don't care about.
Unfortunately, it's a little more than that. Because the number today, like think about it like this, what's the house value today versus 2 years ago?
Yeah.
How's the numbers
100%.
looking for you? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
no,
if
this
I would have bought
is
McDonald's stock, or if I would have bought Bitcoin at the right time, or Chick-fil-A at the right time, what do you think would have happened? You know what I'm saying? So we can always go back and backseat it, look in the rearview mirror. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to like dive in, like both feet. Don't dip your toe in, because like it's not like you're going and gambling. It's very strategic. There's no inventory. The rates are historic. It's a hedge against inflation because you're locking in today. Even if those prices go up 10% again this year instead of 18, you're still ahead of the game. And is your Bitcoin, your dollar, how's the stock market doing? What I'm saying is, when you think about an average person like us, how do you build wealth? Well, bricks and mortar is a good way to do it. And you can have an investment property. So besides us helping buyers and sellers buy their primary home, how about that secondary home? So I guess I have some rentals. So those have been good. The rents are good if you buy the right location, right? Because in real estate, it's location, condition, and price. But if the market goes up and goes down like it always does, location, location, location.
Do you want to, there's actually a fact. In fact, I literally just Googled it while you were talking, because I think this is interesting, because you touched on brick and mortar, and there is this push for the digital world, which we're a big part of. But out of all the industries, and I am literally reading this off right now, the top 3 industries for making the most millionaires in the world. Number 1 is financial services. Number 2 is technology. And number 3 is real estate.
Yeah, so real estate's always been tried and true. Like honestly, if you gentlemen look back from 1970 to now, and you look at the inflation, like right now it's 7.5%, and it's going to go up higher. So if you get a 5% raise, well, you're still losing, right?
Yeah.
So the point is that when you look at real estate and you look at the interest rates, because remember, in the late 70s, early 80s, the rates were 23%, and it went to 18%, 17, 16, 11, 10, it went all the way down to 5%. And then when the Gulf War happened, or not the Gulf War, when 2008 happened, then they basically, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, Ginnie Mae imploded. Everything went belly up in the US. And so in order to kind of, they put all that QE money in, and they brought the rates down to 3%. So it was like make believe at 3% for years. But if I had no job, or I was scared about my job, I don't care if the rate's 0%, I couldn't do anything. So there's always the confidence part of it, how the feel good index, we'll call it. How do you feel about your investments? How do you feel about your job? How do you feel about your life? That sometimes will help you spend a little more or less, depending on psychological. As an engineer, you know what I'm talking about. If you feel good about your 401k, you feel good about your job, you feel good that the real estate's, solid investment. But if we have, like in 2008, 10 months of supply, well, what does that mean? If I have 1 month supply, what does that mean? Well, you got to know as an agent. So 5 to 6 months of inventory in any given market is a balance between buyers and sellers, right? Well, if we're down to 1% or less than a month's supply, then we know that those prices are going to escalate up. And then you have the spring market, or you have the interest rates going up. People are scared, so then they start frenzying, and then that benefits the seller. It's a terrible place as an FHA buyer to be in, but as a seller, it's powerful. And so you spin on each side. If you're a buyer or you're a seller, you just got to know what are the important things to articulate. And the other thing is, people self-sabotage. So I would say, like let's say, I'll just use this for you, Andrew. Let's say, you're seriously, you just had another child, you want to expand your home, you and your wife are happy, your job's going good, everything's good. And you're watching Ukraine, you're watching the stock market, you're watching other things, and you still feel good, but you're conservative, right? And so now the rates are on the rise, you're paying 18%, 17, 10% appreciation. You're going to pause, because you're like, this is crazy. I'm not paying, this is ridiculous. But your wife's like, honey, we got all the kids crammed in one bedroom, so I need to get a bigger home. And you're like, okay. So then you work with her, and then you have anxiety. So it's super important for a gentleman that has the details on a fast-paced market to make sure, from a logical standpoint, you're going to be better off in 6 months than you are right now. And you just locked in the 3.6 for 30 years. And there's no prepayment penalty. You can pay it off right away. You can pay it off over time. And you're disciplined enough to do that because you know the long view and you're conservative. And that's why, you like to see the graphs, the charts, and kind of make calculated decisions. Unlike how the goofy market is now, you have to move at a rocket pace in order to win, and even maybe not win at that point. So,
Dominic, what I've loved about this episode is you come with like numbers, facts, like stories, and it's been an absolute ball of a time. So what I want to do is give you the floor. If people want to learn more about you, buy or sell a home, referrals, I'm not sure what else you got going on. What would be the best way to reach out, whether it's phone, email, socials, website? Tell the people where you're at.
Yeah, so I'm in Ohio, and so if you ever have anybody for Ohio, let me know. My direct line is 330-418-1535. That's 330-418-1535. If you'd like to send me an email, send it to my email at Dominic, DOMINIC, at DominicFonte.com. That's Dominic at DominicFonte.com. If you want to check me out, you can go to DominicFonte.com and see my more than 340 5-star reviews to see what your customers will experience working with me. And I will just say this. I did put a system together as well. Basically, it's how to be a 6-figure income person. And I learned it the good old-fashioned way. I'm not saying you want to learn it the same way I did. I would say, like, if the wheel's invented, don't reinvent the wheel, but I would like a Ferrari tire. I want something that's like high performance. And the thing is like people will see me today and say, wow, I wish I could be like you. But they don't really know those early stories of the pain and suffering that I went through. But at the end of the day, I think if you work with your customers with the heart of a teacher and always put their interest first, and educate them, even if you're talking them out of selling sometimes. They'll appreciate that, and they'll tell all their friends and family, I never buy a lead. I do it the good old-fashioned way. And like I said, it's been working really good for me, and I'd recommend you doing the same. If you ever want to talk, call me at 330-418-1535. I appreciate coming on with you guys.
This episode has been great. This was an absolute blast.
You came prepared, you came with notes, you came with facts, you came with numbers. It's been a blast. Everyone I know for sure will definitely love listening to this episode.
Well, like technology is important, right? So you guys found me, and I'm honored to be on the Elite Agents, and I hope anybody that's listening will gain some wonderful practical knowledge, and my phone's always on.
Perfect. Everyone, we hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode, and we will see you in the next one. Oh, and by the way, if you're listening to this and you aren't making over $100,000 per year in GCI and you're looking for a predictable system to get you there, then head over to go.eliteagentsecrets.com.